install it on your own standalone machines. But like I said, we now have the ability to provision it in Azure, which may be useful if you want to do pen testing against your machines in Azure, or if you want to do some of the more advanced features of Kali Linux against your Azure environment. So the question is, how do you provision this Kali Linux machine on Azure? Because if you just go into your Azure portal and try to provision the machine, you're not going to see it. So you actually have to get the Kali Linux image from the Azure Marketplace. And so when you do, you will see that the little Get It Now button. You'll click on that, and when that happens, you'll get this prompt that asks you which accounts you want to use when you acquire apps on the Azure Marketplace. You type in your work account or Microsoft account, your MSN or Hotmail or Outlook account, and sign in. And at that point, you'll be able to provision the Kali Linux image into your Azure instance or your Azure subscription. So what it looks like is this. You would provision it just like you would with any other virtual machine, any Windows machine or other Linux machine. Just set it up, and it runs just the same as any others. One of the things that you should notice in the screenshot there is that the installation defaults are that the only way to administer or access the image by default is through SSH. So you have to SSH into the box using a password, or more securely using SSH keys. Once it's been provisioned, you don't get a GUI interface, but I'll talk about how you can actually set up a GUI interface very easily. You'll also need to get the latest updates for your Kali Linux instance, which would include things like the latest packages for different drivers and just your standard operating system updates, as well as bug fixes, and then there might be some updates to the actual tools that are built into the platform itself. So that's where we're talking about the installation defaults being SSH and port 22. Oh, and the usage instructions there. The last sentence there shows you the command that you would need to type to go out and get the updates, and I show this on another slide in a second here. So how do you connect to your machine using SSH? So if you're not familiar with how to make this connection, once you've provisioned the machine in your Azure portal, you'll be able to see, as you do on the top left, what your public IP address is, 40.85.183.6 in my instance. Download and install the PuTTY tool, which allows you to SSH into the box, and there's a screenshot of that in the picture below. You would just type in your host name or the IP address, make sure that the port is 22 and that the little radio button for SSH is selected, and click open. That will then give you a prompt for username and credentials, and that will get you into the interface for your box. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that by default, when you log in, so if you look at the screenshot here, I'm logged into my Kali box. I'm logged in as Kali admin. I've already entered my password, but the problem is the account you define when you provision the box by default does not have root permissions, which means you can't install updates and you can't modify the install, which is something that you're probably going to want to do. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is set a root password. To do that, I've got the command there. It's a sudo password space root, and then define a password, and then you can log in as the root account using the su root command. and then you'll have root access to the machine, which is equivalent to admin on Windows. So now you're logged in as root. So if you look at the screenshot below, you see in red that I'm logged in as root at Kali-001, which is the name of my machine. Now I want to go out and get the updates to my Kali Linux distribution. So I type in the command there at the top, apt update apt dist-upgrade. It'll ask me to confirm that I want to do the updates. You type yes, and the machine that I provisioned I think on Monday of this week. So it was a fairly recent image, and as soon as I spun it up, I did the updates, and the updates ran for probably 20 minutes. So it takes a little while to get all these updates. So just make sure you're provisioning your time accordingly. So now your machine is updated, but you still have to administer everything with SSH. And that'll work because most of the tools in the Kali Linux install don't need a GUI. They are command line tools, but there are a few that are GUI based, and so you might want to create the ability to go remote desktop into your Kali Linux box and have a GUI as well. So in order to, first of all, get the remote desktop, there's 2 steps that are required. The first is to actually enable the RDP components or install the RDP components on your Kali Linux box, which are the first 4 commands there listed on starting with the apt-get and ending with the service xrdp restart. So xrdp is the Linux version of RDP. So this enables you to remote desktop into your Kali instance. The second piece is that you need to enable the RDP port in Azure so that you can actually get to your Kali Linux box. So when you initially set it up, you enabled SSH, but when you enable the RDP, you have to enable port 3389. In the screenshot that I have there, I've enabled source any, destination any, but of course you may want to lock that down a little bit tighter. I was just doing it for simplicity's sake.